So yeah, good evening everyone, and so we are going to discuss on the concepts of learning and teaching in for the Bachelor of Education students, and this concept basically will deal with the concept of teacher autonomy and the teacher autonomy with reference to the characteristics, which means that what are the aspects that we can think about, considering to understand how can we know whether a teacher is autonomous or not. So based on which we have, we have few characteristics with us, which will help us to identify um, what aspects can we consider to check whether the teacher is autonomous or not. So with reference to this, I'll share my screen. And yes, if you're able to see this. So we have already discussed on the characteristic of negotiating uh, with the students, between the students, with the parents, with other professionals. We have already discussed on the negotiation characteristic. Um, and it is important to understand that negotiation, the concept itself means that you are able to reach an agreement between both the parties. Now this agreement between both the parties is something that is reached by consensus, right? It is not something that you will try and do because you have power or you have authority, or you are in charge. It is not with reference to that, but it is something where you should be able to um, very nicely able to see that agreement is between both the parties, which is reached at. Now, we are going to discuss on the second characteristic today, which is ability to reflect on their own teaching process. So we are saying that the teacher will be considered autonomous if she is able to, reflect on her teaching learning process, right? If she's not able to reflect, which means then, she's not considered to be uh, an autonomous teacher. So yeah, so this somewhere in the classes we have already discussed that what do we mean by reflection. So somewhere reflection is something where you are able to go back and witness that event again, to see what happened in that event, what were the strengths that you could capitalize on, what are the aspects that you can improve on, and which will bring about certain learnings from that process, right? So those learnings, they come because you reflect on it. I mean, I will be able to grow only if I reflect, and based on that reflection I bring about certain learnings, and these learnings help me to grow in my professional life, right? So unless I reflect, I will not be able to understand good and bad. Unless I do not understand good and bad, there are no learnings with me. If I do not learn, I'll not be able to. That as simple as that. So, ability to reflect on their own teaching process is something that we are looking at in terms of teachers' autonomy and the characteristics. So, it talks about basically assessing yourself and to understand how was my class, what did I do the best, what can I improve upon, how are my colleagues doing in their classes. So you know I am doing something in my class in terms of my subject, but what are the other teachers doing with reference to the same subject, same class? My co-teachers, my colleagues, what are they doing? So if you're able to see that, you'll be able to understand that probably this is the strength that I have and this is where I need improvement. So we've also discussed that there are certain tools. I mean, there are certain uh, I would say tools that you could use to reflect. One is, excuse me, one is recording in the journal. So whatever questions that I've written over here in the first point, this will help me to, these questions could be used to reflect in my journal, right? So I just use this pointer. Yeah. So these are the questions that I would, ask myself, which means I would be able to self-assess. But where should I self-assess? Reflection, we need to understand it is a component which needs to be taken up explicitly in the classes for your reflection purpose. So I need to have a journal. I need to note these questions. I need to write on these questions. But where? Using a journal. So probably this journal over a period of time may help me to understand the patterns in which my classes are probably proceeding. Okay, so it is a record that you probably witness over a period of time, that, these are the patterns that I see, these are the places where I really need to improve. Classroom management is something that I every day, see as that this point probably. I'm just giving an example. So you'll be able to see what is it that is coming out of this 15 days. Classroom management, these 5 students, or probably the way I explain is my strength. That is what I've been writing. So journal is one way which will help you to reflect. The second one is probably video recorded teaching practice. So nobody is witnessing your class. Nobody is giving you feedback. Of course, you would be able to reflect on all this, I mean, based on how much you remember, right? But I think video recorded practice is something that will help you to give you an insight on how you are taking up classes. How is your voice modulation? How are your expressions? How do you deal with people in the class? How do you deal with your students? So that video recorded practice can be used to again reflect on this. So these are the basic questions that you need to use to reflect. And the teaching portfolio, which you could do at the end of the year, which can have several things that you can, put up, right? And that will help you to reflect, because putting up these things, say teaching philosophy is one aspect in your portfolio, that will help you to reflect on what is your teaching philosophy, right? External feedback for observation. So if there are any experts coming to your schools, or if there is some quality assurance group that is coming to your school, that might give you feedback and that might help you to reflect, because we are talking about reflection. And what will help you to reflect probably is external feedback. It could be student feedback if it is given in the right sense, with the right intention, and it is very accurate in nature, right? And faculty observations and feedback. So some faculty comes and observes, some co-teacher comes and observes, some head of the department, some coordinator, somebody comes and observes. It could also prove to be a very good tool for feedback that might help you to reflect. Now, why to reflect, right? I mean, it is very important to know my strengths and my problems, right? I might be very good at certain things and I might have certain problems that I might not even know consciously, right? Because if I talk about myself, I always say, right, when I speak, but I don't realize it unless I see my video recorded, or somebody comes and tells me that, Vaibhavi, you use a lot of um, right word when you speak. So I need to consciously work upon it, right? So there might be certain problems when you teach. Once known, rectification is possible. So if you know something, if you know your strength, if you know your problem, you'll be able to rectify it, or you'll be able to capitalize on it, right? So rectification and capitalization is possible only when reflections are available. Who can help? External can help. Student feedback can help. Faculty observations can help. A video recording can help. Journal can help. Teaching portfolio can help. So these are the tools which will help you to reflect. Of course, to document the known and the unknown. Why do you want to reflect? I mean, I want to know my strengths. I want to know my problems. I want to be aware of myself. I want to self-assess myself. I want to rectify. I want to capitalize, right? And by doing so, you can come to know that, you know, uh, you do not require anybody to, tell you that at the end of the year, please do these things, because you have done your process in your work at the background. So that is why reflection is important. How does it affect autonomy? Now, how does it affect autonomy is something that we should be, looking at today, because what people do is people understand reflection. People understand why reflection is important, but we should not forget that we are discussing on teacher autonomy. And we are discussing that how will reflection help develop teacher autonomy is what we are discussing. So the first point is that as I said earlier, when you reflect, you are basically assessing yourself, which is very important, right? Usually we try and assess others, we do not assess ourselves. So it's important to self assess. Right? Why should you self assess? Once the, to, to become aware of what we are. Am I right? To become aware of what our intentions are, to become aware of what my beliefs are. And once you're aware of it, as I have written over here, rectification and capitalization is possible. Because once you're aware, you will know your strengths, you will know your weaknesses, you will know where to improve upon. You will know which person's help should I be seeking to do all that. So, because you will be explicitly writing all these aspects, right? So, the first point is reflection. How does reflection affect autonomy? First, when you reflect, you self assess. When you start self assessing, you start becoming aware. What do you become aware of? Your rectifications that need to be done, your capitalization of strengths that you need to work upon is possible because of that. And when you are done with these, your strengths and your problems and your workings, basically you are an improved individual, right? Because nobody else is coming and telling you, you know what needs to be worked out on, right? So knowing above will help you to take charge of it, right? Once I am aware, once I know the problems, once I know the strengths, nobody has to tell me. So I become in charge of myself. And you need to know that when I'm talking about teacher autonomy, it is about becoming independent. It is about becoming in charge of your own self. You are a self driven individual. You are self regulated. That is what teacher autonomy is talking about. So once you reflect the flow, I'm just putting that flow once again. So reflection will help you to self-assess. Once you self-assess, you become aware. You become aware of what? Your strengths, your problems, your improvements. Once you know that, you become independent of yourself. Nobody else has to do that for you. You become aware of it. You rectify things. You capitalize on certain things. Nobody has to do that for you, but you will do that for yourself. And that helps you to become independent, and that is how you will take knowing the above will help you to take charge of yourself, helping yourself becoming more and more independent. So that is the process of reflection and teacher autonomy. So yeah, also it will also improve the aspect of lifelong learning, because then when once you know that, you know, professionally I have not done a few courses which are important for my context right now, right? Once you reflect, you will come to know what needs to be done by you. So if somewhere I am not very confident about myself, I may take up few courses on confidence, and you know, I might become better individual. So reflection helps you to understand what needs to be developed. You develop that. So that's when lifelong learning becomes important, because you're assessing yourself and then you're improving. And that is the aspect of lifelong learning. And teacher autonomy is equal to reflective teacher and researcher. So you also start researching, because, you know, see, if you start a reflection, I think reflection is primary component that needs to be understood for research to be taken up in your classes. And we'll talk about research later. Right now, you know, we're talking about reflection and teacher autonomy. So the second point is that this teacher who is a reflective practitioner, he or she engages in action research. Action research, in the sense, it is a very small research that a teacher takes up in the class because of reflection that she has done explicitly for her classes. Say, if I see there are 4 to 5 students in my class who do not um, answer the questions much, who do not initiate in the class, who do not participate in my class, I have reflected on that. Now I need to strategize on how do I make sure that all of these, probably 90% of my students participate in my class, especially those 4 or 5 students who are not participating. What should I do? So there's a strategy that you will design, right? And this strategy designing, implementing, and seeing whether it has made a good impact on the 5 students, or what kind of impact that strategy has made, we'll talk about action research, right? So Action research is a small research that you need to take up as a teacher for your class. Even national education policy is promoting on, small researches that a teacher must be doing in her class at her own level. Now, the purpose as a teacher is to provide better learning. It means teachers reflect on their own teaching and action research in order to what? First is reflection. Primary aspect that we begin from is reflection. We are talking about teacher autonomy. The first point is reflection. When you reflect, you identify problems or you identify the points where you can improve upon. When you identify problems, you want to find out why that problem. Am I right? Because you have a problem with you. So you'll start researching on that problem, why that problem is even occurring. Once you know about the problem, the entire problem, say why these 4 or 5 students are not participating in my class, you'll start proposing a solution. You'll start proposing a strategy. Am I right? Based on which you will collect the data that, this is the problem. Now, these 4 or 5 students are not participating. That's a problem, right? Example. You are designing a strategy to improve that, right? So you are devising a strategy, you implement that strategy. Once you've implemented that strategy, you'll collect data. Ki how my strategy is working on, right? You will collect the data, you will analyze it, right? To see whether it has worked or not. Once you have known, say, for example, it has worked. Once you know that it has worked, that is your conclusion, that is your inference. And this inference needs to be notified to the other teachers that these class A has this 4 or 5 students who had problems in participation. You have devised a strategy. You have relooked into the literature that talks about such problems with the students who have not participate, do not participate. There are certain solutions that author or probably researcher has suggested. You take into consideration that, you devise a strategy, contextual strategy, you collect data whether that, to see whether that strategy has worked or not. And then say for example that it has worked, maybe you will have 10 more teachers with whom you will start talking about it, right? So what is the process of reflection and how is it connected with teacher not autonomy? The first point is reflection, right? Once you reflect, you know the problem. Once you know the problem, you will review the literature for the problem. You will propose a solution contextually. You will implement that solution. You'll see whether that solution has worked or not. You will have certain inferences and conclusions for your reflection. Once you have these conclusions, you will start disseminating that conclusion to the other teachers, thereby becoming independent, thereby becoming a teacher who tries and solves problems in the class, who is initiator. Am I right? So teacher autonomy talks about independence. When you reflect, when you research, when you propose, when you disseminate, thereby talking with so many teachers, collaborating, cooperating, disseminating, researching, becoming more and more improved individual, more and more independent individual. And that talks about teacher autonomy, right? So reflection. Now, how is the connection with the teacher autonomy? So reflection helps to research. Research helps to improve in experiences. It helps to develop professionally, because you might think that certain things are lacking. Let me do a professional course and implement certain solutions. You'll start reading, disseminating, thereby becoming independent and also preparing a report. So we have discussed on two aspects in a very, uh, in a in a nutshell way. In the next class, we'll discuss in detail about what action research deals with and what are the components that we need to consider for action research. So we have discussed on two parts today. One, reflection and how reflection is connected with teacher autonomy. Second, action research. What is action research? Why is it important? And how will it improve teacher autonomy? In the next class, we'll discuss on what action research basically deals with. Thank you.